here. So I guess that's all the people we're gonna get to join tonight, but that's all right. So today we'll be talking about South Africa and what's really going on over there. You might have been looking at YouTube videos and you see little different things about the farmers and how they're getting killed in a white genocide that's going on in South Africa. Well, we're just going to examine what's really going on. So I guess we'll start with a few video clips, and then I'll give you some commentary on them, on how I feel about the clips, and kind of break it down and explain to you what's going on from our point of view. So let me go ahead on and I'll play the first clip just to get everything started. And give me a second, let me get it going for you.
The South African Parliament voted earlier this year to change the country's constitution to allow for the confiscation of white-owned land without compensation. The land would then be redistributed among black farmers. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa recently announced that his ruling ANC would try to push through that amendment. And earlier this week, there were reports that the land seizing from white farmers had begun. 2 farms in the northern province of Limpopo were targeted. Farmers were offered less than 10% of the land's market value, and talks with the owners to buy the properties collapsed. Now, the plan is not only sparking controversy among South Africans. Shortly after Fox News aired a segment on the issue, President Trump weighed in. He tweeted, "I've asked Secretary of State Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm sieges and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers." Well, in response, Julius Malema, the South African politician who initially proposed the land reform plan, lashed out at President Trump, demanding that he stay out of South Africa's domestic affairs.
We remain unshaken. Actually, we are more determined after the Donald Trump tweet to expropriate our land without compensation. There is no white genocide here. It's an absolute rubbish to say there is white genocide. There is black genocide in the USA. They are killing black people.
Put the land reform controversy into context. In South Africa, John Purchase is the CEO.
Enough of that. So what is all of this land snatching going on over here in South Africa? Well, basically what the deal is, I'll show you. The South Africans been under a system called apartheid. Apartheid was designed by white Afrikaners going around the world, places who have slavery and racist systems enacted, like the United States and in Australia, and they basically got tips on making the best form of segregation possible. So they went and got tips from the US, they got tips from Australia, they got tips from Brazil, and they created this system called the apartheid. Now, apartheid means separateness, so it actually means to segregate. And the Dutch, which is British white people, colonized South Africa a couple hundred years ago and created Cape Town, South Africa. And the indigenous black people of that area was pushed aside and segregated and basically treated like the people here in the United States was treated. So they took the land from them and they created farms, and basically what the whole thing is going on is that 8% of the population is actually white. 85% of the population is black. You got 7% mixed race, you know, mixed white and black race. So basically, you got 8% of the white people controlling 85% of the population. So they controlling all the land, they got all the good jobs, they got everything. So what happened was in the 1990s, Nelson Mandela became president in 1994. And after he became president, a lot of things were supposed to change. You know, they got this quote that they say South Africa is for the people that's in South Africa, and it's supposed to be equal and it's perfect country. And yeah, they're supposed to have their shit together better than the US when it comes down to race relations. But evidently they don't. So the whites gave up the presidency in 1994. They gave up all of the politics, but they didn't give up the money. They didn't give up the land. You couldn't affect their financial systems that they had in place. So that was kind of like part of the agreement. So here we is now, 20 something years later, and nothing's really changed for that 85% of the population. So even though they got a black president and a black government, the black people are still majority poor because that 85% is very poor. It's not like they reaping the benefits of being ran by a black government with a black president. And one of the things they did was determine that it was the land issue that is keeping them down. You know, they realized that most of them never even saw what a deed looked like to a property, and they didn't have opportunity. So what they did was the South African government enacted a couple of laws to try and balance the system from the way that it's been. So what they did was, if you have a government contract, like say your energy or you Atmos or one of these big utility companies, and they have government contracts to supply electric to say the whole city or the city of Cape Town or the city you live in. So you have an energy company in your city that's supplying energy for the government. So if you want to get these big government contracts, your workers have to reflect the same as the population. So therefore, the energy company had to lay off majority of their white workers, and they had to lay them off to they only had 8% white workers, and they had to hire 85% black workers. Now, if they can't meet them quotas, then they lose their government contracts. So people was just like outraged over that alone. So when they first proposed taking the land from the white farmers, they was talking about compensation because they want to, you know, they want you to take the land and they want you to pay them for the land, which kind of seems like to be fair. But the South Africans put up a good fight that, you know, they took the land, they didn't get the land fairly, and they're not going to pay them anything. So they want to take the land and they don't want to pay them anything. So one thing you got to look at is that 8% owns 85% of the farmland. Now that's a lot of land that's out there. And for 8% to own that much land, they must own a whole lot. It's not like one farm we're talking about here. They're not trying to take one farm from a farmer. Most of these farmers have 20, and some have as much as 500 farms. So it's not, we're not talking about a one farm thing here. When they're trying to take the farm, when they say taking a farm, they mean taking 20 of them. And what they basically want to do is say that one man has one farm. So instead of one man having 500 farms, they want to take the other 499 and leave him that one. And then they want to redistribute that farmland to the black indigenous people of South Africa, the Khoisan and the other black people that's in Africa right now. So basically, that's the big deal about what's going on. So I want to show y'all a few more videos to kind of show you what's going on. And you can see these white people, they just, oh man, they just crying wolf, you know, they crying and they acting like they so mistreated. And And I'll show you exactly what I mean about this white genocide of the farmers. This is kind of funny, really comical. But I'll show you. And they done debunked this several times, debunked it several times. But they're actually training snipers and training the farmers to defend themselves against the attacks when people come and attack the farms. So I'll show you what they're doing. And hold on a second, let me get this video running for you. Here we go.
This is Claire. Good. Welcome back. White South African farmers are waiting to see how and when a constitutional change that allows for confiscating their land will be enacted. Earlier this year, South African Parliament voted to allow for the confiscation of white-owned land without compensation. And as they await their fate, they are also struggling with mounting violence against them. Following dozens of murders and hundreds of attacks, they've now been forced to prepare themselves to fight back, and some are enlisting the help of former Israeli Special Forces agents. Correspondent Paul Tilsley has the story.
A South African farmer, a target for robberies that frequently end in murder. An average of one farmer killed a week for the past 22 years. 3 murdered in just this past weekend. The government doing little to help. The police progressively weaker and unable or unwilling to assist. Criminals preying on farmers like this one as easy, isolated targets. 6 of this man's family and friends have been killed in farm attacks. For his own safety, he doesn't want us to give his name or where we found him.
My family's been attacked. My father-in-law was killed in the farm. In the house where we're living now, there's lots of incidents here. 2 of my wife's close family. In total, I've lost about six people that I know. Good personal friends and family. Yes, it's hectic. It's not nice.
But there's a new man in town, and he's turning the tables on the bad guys. Idan Abelnik is an Israeli ex-Special Forces commando at a secret, specially adapted location an hour's drive from Johannesburg. He's brought considerable anti-terrorist skills honed in Middle East conflicts here to Africa. He's teaching farmers not just how to fight back, but how to turn the tables on their attackers.
I think because, I've been Lebanon, I've been Hebron, Gaza, I've been conflict area in my life. I've done operation, many operation, and I'm familiar with that, what they're facing here. I realize they're not dealing with, with crime syndicate. They are dealing with the act. The act is a one-on-one terror act.
Here, deep in Africa, more than 9,000 kilometers from Jerusalem, an Israeli ex-Special Forces commando involved in a new fight to save the African farmer.
I want to transfer the mindset to survival. They need to understand that we are here learning how to survive.
Those being trained by Abelnik really value what he's doing for them.
Well, first I feel honored that he came all the way to South Africa to come and teach us his way and the experience he has.
His compassion for all people, I can see it in him. I've known him for quite a while now, and you can see it in him. Whatever he does for people. And he likes to help people. He likes to equip people to help themselves.
Where I come from, in Israel, is a country we very much believe in peace. We really want a peace, but we will protect and we fight what is right. And same is here in the farm community.
Idan Abelnik, an Israeli trying to save lives in Africa.
And correspondent Paul Tilsley joins us now live from Johannesburg, South Africa.
All right, enough of that. Well, basically, you can see what's going on there. So they training the farmers to be able to defend themselves. Now, what they claim that's going on is groups of black people are attacking the farmers. And they're attacking the farmers, catching them at night, and they coming in like a group of bandits, and they be masked up and everything. And the whole point the white people are claiming is to kill. So they come in the middle of the night and they want to kill. Now, the brother that you was hearing speaking before is Julius Malema, and he claimed that the whole thing is just fake and that they making it up, and they claiming one farmer getting killed like once a week. They're having these farm attacks on these rich people where they're attacking the farmers and killing the farmers. And the reason for this now could be to try to scare the white people out of South Africa. And in a lot of instances, it's happening. You know, a lot of them is scared and they moving. Australia said they'll take a few of them in. They have Russia said that they will take a few of them in and they'll expedite their immigration, you know, system so that they can hurry up and get them through the system and get them over there. So I know the black people in Australia and in no hurry for them to come now, but they can go there as well. But I'll just take you back a little second and we'll just talk about Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela, because a lot of people, Nelson Mandela is a very known name. A lot of people heard of him before. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993, and everybody know he was the first black president of South Africa. And but the real story behind all of this is Winnie Mandela. Now she was a soldier. Winnie was a soldier, and basically was what happened was Nelson Mandela eventually became, I guess you could say, the leader of the revolution in South Africa, and as a result of that, he ended up getting sentenced to jail. So he was sentenced to life in jail, and he wasn't supposed to get out. They put him on an island off the coast of South Africa. It was like a prison island, you know, like Angola or something in the United States. But they put him there and they locked him up and they gave him a life sentence. Him and the other top members of his organization that he had, called the ANC, which is the African National Congress. I believe that's what it stands for. Could be wrong, but that's what I think it stands for. And it wasn't looking pretty bad for him, you know, it wasn't looking too good for him. But man, when it was holding it down, she kept the youth into it. She built the revolution, grew 10 times, 100 times after she took over, because after they put her husband in jail, she raised hell. When I tell you she raised hell, she had black people attacking government. It was riots every day. They was basically about to march up in the White House, or the equivalent to the White House in South Africa, and just snatch all the white people out. They was going in the banks. They was taking money. They was just a complete breakdown in society. And this was all happening through the 1980s. And this continued for about 20 years till it was to the point where the whites was very scared. They thought that the blacks was going to start killing all of the white people in South Africa. And they went to Nelson Mandela and they said, hey, man, could you calm your wife down? We'll let you out of jail right now. I know we said we're going to throw you in jail for life, but we'll let you out right now if you just go and speak out and denounce the violence that's going on right now. And in the 1980s, he decided he wasn't going to do that. And he said he didn't give a damn if you let him stay in jail for life or not. He's not going to tell his wife and her crew to calm down. So what they did was, when they kept the heat on, she kept the pressure on, they kept the marches up, they kept the attacks up, and eventually they had to let Nelson Mandela out anyway without him denouncing the violence. They just had to let him out and hope he'll do the right thing. But at that point, the only thing they can do is just let him out. If they didn't let him out, he would have the blacks would have told South Africa clean up. And during this time, when Winnie was training these young revolutionaries, they had a young revolutionary, Julius Malema. Now, he's actually the leader of the EFF, and you can say a radical right wing group in Africa. And they're not the leaders of the government, but they're a part of the government. So the EFF is a part of the ANC, but they only account for 6% of the ANC. So 6% of the ANC is real radical. They believe in taking the land, no compensation, no money, no nothing. Stop crying, give me my land back. One of his famous quotes is, he say, South Africans, if you see a beautiful piece of land, take it. It's yours. You don't have to ask nobody for it. Take it. It's yours. And oh man, I just love me some Julius Malema because he just keep it real. He's just a serious dude. But he was one of the young guys that was coming up under Winnie Mandela. And you can actually see him sitting here on side of Winnie here. And that's a picture of Winnie, the queen now. And this is Julius Malema in his younger years. He done got a little older now, but he still looked like a black Ip Man to me. But that's just what I think. But that's Julius Malema and Winnie Mandela. So let me see. I got a few more photos here I want to show y'all. So got Winnie there, and we got Winnie here. And this is one of her famous quotes. You know she was a soldier. I am not sorry. I will never be sorry. I would do everything I did again if I had to. Everything. So she had to raise hell and set off bombs and test shit up again. She would have did it. So that lets you know she didn't regret anything that she did. So I got a few more. Let me see. We got. I want to get a picture of a young Winnie for y'all. Let's see here. There we go. We got a young Winnie here, back doing the movement. You see, they got the black fist of power there. They raising it up. All right, and we got another one here. And we actually have another quote that she made on this sketch here. And let's see what this say. I cannot forgive him, Nelson Mandela, for accepting the Nobel Peace Prize with his jail de Klerk. Hand in hand they went. Do you think de Klerk released him from the goodness of his heart? He had to. The time dictated. The world has changed. Y'all forgive me for that reading. It's late. I know it's kind of sloppy, but I hope y'all got the point there. And let's see what else I got here for you guys. Now, I just want to play a video of Tucker Carlson from Fox News, just to give you an example on how they're trying to spin it in the United States. You know, they want the white people over here to help them out so bad. But, you know, no, the white people over here had nothing to say when those people was living under apartheid. And, you know, I say apartheid was similar to Jim Crow in the United States, but actually it was a lot worse. They had them separated into a whole lot of different race classes. And actually, if you was a different race from one of your family members saying, I'm black, I marry a white woman, we have a mixed child, and that mixed child actually has to stay in a separate part of town from us, because everybody was segregated. Mixed people had their area, white people had their area, blacks had their area, and they had another ethnicity, India, the East Indian, which was people of India, maybe the Dravidians and stuff like that. But basically they separated it. Like, it was illegal for a black to marry a white, but it still happened. And when it happened, those people had to live in separate areas too. So their segregation was real strong, way worse than Jim Crow. It has its perks, but I'll show you how Tucker Carlson covered it and some of the rhetoric that's spilling over into the news here in the United States. So let me get this going for you. and let y'all check out this short clip here.
So we've got an update from South Africa for you. According to news reports, the South African government has withdrawn its farmland redistribution bill less than a week after we on this show reported on the story. The South African government hated our segment and said so. They also hated President Trump's response to it. He tweeted out a response. They'd counted on not being criticized, particularly from America. The story, though, is far from over. Politicians in South Africa are still planning to seize land without compensation on racial grounds. In fact, it seems to be underway. South African media report that one of the first farmers on the list is a man called Johan Steenkamp. He owns a game preserve. Now, apologists for the South African government, and there are many in our media, say that the point of seizing land is to redress historical injustices, and there have been a lot of those in South Africa. But that doesn't apply here at all, and in a lot of these cases, but specifically this one, it does not apply. Steenkamp didn't steal his farm from anyone. In fact, he says he bought it legally 21 years ago. That's significant because 21 years ago, apartheid was over. Nelson Mandela was president at the time, but the government is taking it away from him anyway because he's the wrong color. Western liberals support this. Barack Obama supports it. So does British Prime Minister Theresa May. So does pretty much our entire ruling class and our news media. They're all in favor of collective punishment based on race. And that is the real story here. Much bigger than what's happening in South Africa. The West responds to it. It's terrifying.
So basically, they want everybody in the West. Excuse me, y'all, just 1 second. All right, I'm back. So basically, he's trying to rev up rhetoric and get the white people excited. And regardless of when he purchased his farmland, he purchased it with money that he got that was passed down to him from the system of slavery that they had there. So whether Nelson Mandela was the president or not, it really does not matter. You still had your system of apartheid in play. Now, even though apartheid ended, like I said, government-wise, it still never ended financial-wise. They still had all of the money. The blacks still starting 10 steps behind, and they're trying to finish the race with them. So basically, it's gonna be a long ride, and I'll keep you guys posted on if the South Africans will get their land back. But right now, what they've done was try to go about it in a government way by amending their constitution, by putting in a law where they can seize the land from the farmers by law. So, of course, white people still have all the money. They still have a large influence on the ANC because they paying politicians and stuff like that to vote for them. So basically what he was talking about was the bill they was trying to pass didn't get passed. But those guys, Julius Malema, the EFF, they on their shit and they going about it a different way. You know, they kind of acting like white people and they're not giving up on nothing. You know, you stop them one way, they don't give up. They just find another way to do it. And basically that's what they're doing right now. So this is going to be a to be continue, and I'll do another updated video on this as soon as some more news come out about it, and we'll see. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed because my heart is with the South Africans, the indigenous people of South Africa, and I want them to get their land because it's fair. And they serve as a prime example that becoming the president, like Barack Obama, or having a black president doesn't end the racism in your country, you know. And in order to set things truly right you have to do everything right. You know, you have to equally distribute that land. You got to equally distribute those jobs, you know. And I agree with what they're doing, and I think they're doing the right thing. So you can like and subscribe to my videos so you can get my content on the regular. And I appreciate everyone who came and joined. And you guys can have a good night. I'm going to end my stream now, and you guys have a good night.